Welcome back to the podcast. Levi Lascsak is here, and he is a YouTuber, and he's all about real estate in huge volumes, and he is part of the fastest growing and most viewed real estate YouTube channel in Dallas, Texas. He generates 3 to 5 inbound leads per day from there. So we're going to find out all about Levi's secrets to success and his failures and his stories and everything in between. So Levi, glad to be speaking with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And it's also last name is like classic without the C, so it's Lascsak.
Lascsak. Okay, I went and watched some videos and it didn't stick quite well. So
every single person will pronounce it incorrectly. So if you watch other videos, they probably said it wrong too. So
they call that disinformation. Okay, so what are you all about? Like, we introduced you a little bit, but what's your current passion and focus, and just what gets you really pumped up and excited lately?
Well, I mean, what gets me pumped up is the bigger goals that I'm trying to achieve, which really, I mean, is investing in multifamily real estate and, apartment deals. And then also I've just acquired 200 acres in Belize. And that's, hopefully within the next 5 years, I plan to start working on a jungle resort in the middle of Belize. So, I mean, those are the types of things that really get me up. I've also got a little boy on the way. So those are the things that keep me going, keep me motivated, what I look forward to. But the day-to-day is, YouTube, running a successful real estate YouTube business, creating content and helping clients, make their move around Dallas, Texas. And then also we run an education team and also editing agency. So 3 companies in total. There's a lot going on.
Okay. And it all seems like it has a little bit of overlap in each one, right? Like, it's not like you have all these businesses that are not connected. They all sort of work together.
Well, yeah, because of we have an education business because of our success on YouTube through real estate. So of course, other agents, other mortgage brokers, we've even extended into small business owners, entrepreneurs, how to generate leads from creating content online. And that's what's because of our success there. Then, of course, that helps fuel the educational side. And I think people, the reason that works so well is because of the amount of success we've had on that side. Of course, that attracts people whenever they see what you're able to accomplish, especially in a short period of time. And then, the editing agency came out of the fact that we would have people go through the educational side of it, and then they would get stuck. They'd say, well, I'm having trouble trying to find an editor. How do I, create all this content and then have an editor and then optimization, SEO? So we thought, why don't we just expand our team, because we already had a team in place for ourselves, but we thought if we could just duplicate what we've already done, maybe that would help people as well. And so it all became natural extensions from there. Yes.
And there's so many good lessons in there so far. Like, they say, document, don't create, because you can have built-in case studies and social proof and like kind of these kind of it's like a slow passive sales process of just like, sort of like you said, where you teach people kind of solution A, and they say, okay, well, now I'm kind of falling off a cliff as far as I'm doing the real estate, I'm doing the YouTube, but then how do I get to the video editing? And so it's like one thing leads to another. And so with all these things that you've built and you've grown, like, what do you think you do really well that others don't? Like, what's your uniqueness where other people fail?
Well, I failed in these areas before, so that's why I think I'm moving so quickly now. And that was I didn't ever scale myself before. I've been in sales for 20 years, and I was always that person that felt like I had to do things one-on-one, belly to belly, just me. If I wanted things done right, I would have to do that. Sort of that mentality. It was too expensive to hire somebody. So I had all of those limiting beliefs, I would call them. And so this time around, I had to make a shift during COVID because my financial services business, really went out of business during COVID. I had been building that up for 5 years, working with teachers on their retirement planning at schools. And when the schools shut down, I didn't have any idea what I was going to do next. So the thing is that over the summer of 2020, I had a lot of time to think, and I just really started to think about what my next move was and how I was going to execute on it and what had gotten me in this position over the last 20 years. Like, I was 41 years old asking myself, well, how do I start over without starting over? also what led me to this position. And what led me there is that I wasn't leveraged. I wasn't maximizing my opportunity to have the right people, processes, and systems in place. So this time, before I moved into real estate, I decided, let me make a plan first. Number one, I wanted to see if I could attract business versus chase it down. I was always the best salesperson because I was the best prospector, but I also felt like I spent 90% of my time prospecting, and only 10% of my time actually doing what I loved, which was talking to people about my product or service. So this time I said, you know what, let me see if I can attract business in the first place. And then as soon as I make any type of money, I'm going to start hiring people. I'm going to start putting people in place to leverage the things that I don't want to do or I'm not good at, which from the very beginning, I had an editor. I've never edited a single video. There's over 400 videos now on my YouTube channel, and I've never edited a single one. So from the very beginning, I knew that would be something that could hold me back. I didn't know editing. I didn't want to learn editing. I wasn't interested in it. And I probably would have gotten frustrated and quit after one video anyways. So immediately had an editor from the beginning. And then from there, you get an assistant. And then I partnered with showing agents and buyer agents and things like that. So I just started putting a lot of people in place. And that's just what allowed me to scale extremely quickly, because it also allowed me to continually focus on creating content, which brought in more and more business. And the more content I could create, the more business came in, as to where most people, if you don't do that or put those people or processes in place, as soon as you get busy, they'll push aside the content and forget that that's what's bringing the leads in the door in the first place.
Wonderful. Well, there's a lot to think about in there, in that. So we need to be hiring to have people kind of take over the boring work, or just whatever is not in our zone of genius. And there's all sorts of reasons for that. But you're saying the big reason is the consistency factor, because that's really cool to think about. Just that whole concept of, well, sure, you could juggle all these balls in the air at once, but as soon as there's a little bit of a crunch in one little area, then that that whatever is expanding your reach, your influence, the kind of the not essential, but the non-urgent kind of marketing, the content creation, the things that you don't see the immediate gratification on, that's the first to suffer. And then if you're not careful, the whole house of cards comes collapsing down, right? If you're just doing it all yourself. And so you're saying to kind of overcome the fear and the hesitation and the excuses that come with hiring, delegating, that way everything can be a well-oiled machine. And so in that kind of hiring and scaling process, like what sort of headaches did you go through? Because there's the looking into the future, and there's the fear of like, oh, well, we'll have to like hire this person, or will they be like wasting a lot of money? And so what sorts of struggles, difficulties did you go through when you were kind of reinventing yourself in a better way like this?
Well, I think just starting over, it seemed like, and feel like I was starting from scratch again, which I was. So the next thing I know, though, if you just put in the work and just work on the day to day and the week to week and then month to month, the next thing you know, it's like 3 years have gone by already. And now it's as if I'm an expert already in my field. And so it's just consistent progress. And it's really time on task over time. So the more you stay consistent on something over time, you get better, more proficient. You start turning out better quality. But yeah, bringing on people, I'm happy to say most of our people are from relationships. And so we didn't have to, go through a lot of cold hires. Most of our executive team, management team is all from people that we have direct relationships, or we met from some, through somebody else, or, from some event. Now, a lot of the additional staff, especially on the editing side, I mean, that's just something that we have to turn over. And we've had to let some people go based on performance, based on not doing the right things, not being true to our core values. And so you do have to have those types of things in place as far as your purpose and your core values. That's what you hire and fire around. And if you don't have that in place, it's going to be very difficult to make hiring decisions. It's going to be very difficult to make firing decisions. But when you have a certain set of core values and understanding of what, the culture of the company is, it's very easy to see if people fit within inside that. And sometimes they can present very well whenever you bring them on, and then you find out very quickly through actions that that's not the case. And so we try to hire quickly and also fire quickly if we have to.
And I don't know if it's a trend or what, but these last few months, I've been hearing so much about this core values concept of saying, like, what are we about? What have we done right? And then you weigh that against like what you want for the future to kind of like sort of like codify the magic. And then when you hire someone or decide or make these painful decisions and decide to keep someone or let them go, then you can just kind of reference this code that you've more or less written. And so can you tell me about like your company's values? And like, I mean, is there a way to state it succinctly? Like, what are your values so that we get an idea of what this implementation looks like?
Yeah, for our educational company, Passive Prospecting, our purpose is to educate and empower and amplify the entrepreneur's voice through video. So whatever we do, that's the whole goal, to educate, because we need to educate people first of all. Then we have to empower them, because ultimately you do have to do this, on your own. You do have to go out there and put out the work, and then amplify. We are amplifying their voice, which is going to give them a bigger reach and hopefully bring in business that allows them to scale accordingly. And we're doing that through video. So those are the three components of the purpose. And then we have passion, people, process, and profit as the core values. So, passion, for example, we want, that's very simple, is that we are passionate about the work we do, which means, the thing is I understand people may come into our company and they're not going to be here for 10 years or 20 years. I mean, we would want that, but that may not be the case. They may be here for a year or two. This could be a season in their life. But what has served me well over my career is no matter which company I was in, I always tried to be the absolute best at what I was doing. And so if they're going to work here, even if it's temporary, or if they have some bigger aspirations to go somewhere, be the best at what you're doing in this position while you're here. And we want people that are striving to do that. And so that way, and if they're not, they're doing a poor job. It makes it very easy to identify that, especially if they're not meeting expectations, and to be able to, remove that position if we don't see that we're aligning on that core value. People, like, we serve our community so that they feel valued and confident to be successful. So serving our community means everybody, our clients, our team members, that's outside of the company, within the company. We see everyone as a community there. And so we want to serve them. And so that gives us a service mentality, so that we are thinking about others before ourselves. And that way, a lot of times people ask questions. We need to help them. Did we help them understand well enough? Are we getting our message across? And so we want them to feel confident, because if they don't, then of course, then they start to slack on their standards, and then you get a poor product either way. And then process, I mean, that is something about improving ourselves every single day so we can be better than yesterday. So again, that goes into that consistent effort about thinking about what we did yesterday. How do we get a little bit better? And you think about that, you can improve 1% every single day. Even just that small amount will compound over time. And then the last one, profit. I mean, we make smart financial decisions. So it's not that, hey, we're just here to make gobs of money. The profit is what fuels our bigger goals, right? Our dreams, our aspirations. I mean, and also allows us to reinvest back into our company and to expand our programs and things like that. And if we're not profitable, we can't do that. We can't grow and expand and accomplish the goals we want to. So we want to make smart financial decisions and be sure that we stay in business is really the key components. And so those are our four main core values and our purpose, and that's what we stay aligned to.
Wonderful. There's so much packed in there, but that's great. And I feel like I need to like go back and rewatch that part just to like really soak it in. It's like not a word wasted in as far as these values that you have. And it gives me flashbacks to Boy Scouts when like you had to memorize like the Boy Scout like slogan and motto and like this list of words. And it seems silly at first, but then once you got it kind of deeply embedded into you, then it became automatic. Then it just becomes something that just sort of guides you in that way. And so that's wonderful to think about. And so you've had this success with your kind of the multifamily apartments, and now you're teaching people, if I understand it right, how to build their presence on YouTube. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so, like, what is there something that's kind of a good talking point in those terms? Like, do people get stuck as far as like the content or the consistency or the story or the hooks, or just like, what do you feel like talking about today that's like attention worthy as far as what these real estate people should do as far as their YouTube presence?
I mean, I think they struggle with getting started and then staying consistent. I mean, you have people that will not ever get started. I mean, they'll buy programs, and it's not just with ours; it's with any program, right? They'll invest the money, they'll attend some trainings, but whenever it comes to the action, some of them just won't start. They won't do it at all. And what that may be, that could be fear, it could be uncertainty, it could be laziness. I mean, it could just be unmotivated. It could be that they're not in a painful enough position to move, and so that's the thing, is if sometimes people that are scraping by are still just comfortable enough to stay in that position. So I think you start moving and you get motivated whenever there's not much else left on the table. Like, you have to, your back's against the wall. Usually that's whenever people take action, or usually it's your high performers that know how to do that, and they'll take action immediately just because that's what they're used to doing. But then once people do get started and they get into action, if they don't stay consistent, and if they let any excuse get in the way, or as soon as something comes up, they let the content suffer or put content on the back end, that they're going to get in trouble that way as well. So ideally, look, it's never going to be perfect. I don't care how long you've been in the business or how long you've been making video. You're always going to mess up. You're always going to have to do a retake. And so that's just a part of it. But you get better, just like anything else, over time. Again, time on task over time is what's going to lead to better results, not perfection. And so even in the beginning, when you mess up, going to be frustrating, going to feel like a little bit of setback, but it's the people that work through that. And I try to just remind people to think back to something that they accomplished that was extremely difficult in the beginning, but once they accomplished it, they were very proud of the fact that they stuck with it. And that's what you have to remind yourself sometimes. Sometimes we get in a position of a certain level of success, and we're okay with that as well. So it's not that you may be running out of money or paycheck to paycheck. You might be just at a level where you're just comfortable enough to not make that change as well. And so, there's different factors that play into it, but ultimately, if you take action, stay consistent, you're going to see some success from it. It's just a matter of when, not if.
And it seems like the focus of what you're saying here is that there's kind of two scenarios where the plateauing occurs, right? Scenario number one is just getting started, where whatever your life situation is, it's not bad, but it's not good and it's comfortable. And you're saying that the way forward there is either to run out of options, or to have maybe this artificial scarcity, or hire your team to just do it, just get started despite the fear, and know that growth is ahead, and know that the fear is probably where you should be heading in the direction of. And you're saying scenario number two is that when you get up a few levels, then there's the plateauing again, because you've achieved a certain amount of success, but then the comfort creeps back in. And that's a situation where we need to not let this smallest setback hold us back, because we've all been there, and it's a scary place to be, where, like you said, you record the video and then the camera wasn't on, or something went wrong, and you give up that day, and then you give up the next day and the next day, and the chain of consistency is broken. And then next thing you know, like you said near the beginning, all this time passed, and you wondered where it went wrong, and you wondered where things changed, or where it slowly, like, what was the tipping point? Well, the tipping point is when you gave up on yourself, or you came up with the excuses. And so as far as the things that you've accomplished and the things you've succeeded at, do you have like a secret as far as like your time management, or your motivation, or your mindset, something along those lines that you think can really help people sort of rise above, like we're talking about here?
I just make sure my calendar is full. And if you're starting the day before to plan the next day, you're already too late at that moment. Or really, your day starts the day before, your week starts the week before, your month starts the month before, your quarter starts the quarter before, and your year starts the year before. So even, for next year, usually about around August, September, we start planning for the following year. And we start looking at conferences, speaking opportunities, and start scheduling them in. I've got a wall-size calendar over here right off to the side because it gives me easy access to do a quick glance of the entire year. So if somebody asks me, hey, can you speak at this place? I say, yep, I'm open. I'll mark it in. I look at the conferences that I want to attend. I put those on the calendar. I look at the vacations I want to take. I put those on the calendar. So I start filling out my calendar at the macro level. And then we look at our quarterly commitments. We do a quarterly planning session. That's a full 8-hour day every single quarter. So now we got to mark those in the calendar. And then there's certain trainings that I do every single week. Those are non-negotiable. They go in the calendar. So now that's filled in. And so by the time I even start, 50, 70, 80% of my calendar is already filled in for next year. And now the week before, I'll look at things to where I need to fill in those gaps, or even the day before. Usually the week before, people will book on my calendar, but they'll only be able to book in little gaps if I even have a gap. But most of the time, like I look at my calendar right now, it's pretty much all full. There's no blank space. So every single day, I'm not questioning what I'm doing. I even have content, like content is blocked on my calendar for specific days. I was out yesterday filming out in a specific neighborhood, and that was already scheduled out. We already knew that. Today, we met with the team about next week. So every Thursday, we do a next week meeting about what content are we doing, where are we going to be at, what location, where. So next week, we've already planned for next week. So that's already done. And then any little gaps get filled in. I keep a few sticky notes on the side of my desk right here. So for any reason there's a cancellation or a tiny gap or something like that comes up in my calendar, I can look over to my sticky notes, and that's kind of like my punch list. It's things that are not high priority that I just need to do in between, or make a few phone calls, or I need to record a quick little video or something. It's something like that. I can just look over there, and it's very easy to just pull off a little sticky pad, and it's also kind of like a little to-do list. And whenever I'm done, I can just crumble that up and throw it away. And it's very simple to do. So that's how I stay I stay busy throughout the week. And then, like I said, if I've got a vacation coming up in 2 weeks, it's already blocked off. Everything's scheduled. Everything's planned for. I don't feel bad about it, and everything's ready to go. And so I think you want to, right now, if you haven't, you need to start planning for next year on the macro. Also Q1. I mean, really, you're probably a little too late on Q1, but if you haven't started, it's better to start now instead of waiting till January. So you want to start planning out next year and Q1. And then also you should have already been planned out for December, but if you haven't, go ahead and do that as well. But, so those types of things help me stay on top of what I need to do.
That's very helpful to aggressively look at the calendar in the future and fill it up. And as we've been saying, people make all sorts of excuses, right? Like, oh, I'm tired, or I need free space. And the successful people say, well, schedule it. If you need time, if you need that free time to make content, no, put that in your calendar, because it will get filled anyway. The time will get filled anyway. And it seems like the average person is doing the opposite of all these things you're mentioning, right? The average person is looking at the past and the present, and then the free time is creeping in, and they play on their phone, they watch TV. And guys like you and me are saying, no, put that towards your future, build your business, have focus, pursue your goals, go to those appointments, and like work hard, play hard. And so this is all wonderful to think about. And I can tell even just the way you described your values earlier, and the way that you're describing your kind of calendaring and time management, it seems refined, right? It seems like you didn't just think of this overnight. You've slowly added to the system with the sticky notes and the quick tasks and the planning ahead. And it just kind of drills in my head the importance of bettering your best and developing the muscle. That way you can look back later and say, man, what I thought was hard then is easy for me now, because there's even a harder hard coming at me in the future. And so if someone here is listening to a podcast here and they're super impressed with what you said, and they said, man, I need to see what Levi has going on as far as the video editing and the YouTube training, tell us about your company. What's the next step, and how does someone know if they're a right fit for you?
Yeah, they can go to book.passiveprospecting.com and actually get a copy of the book. We have a book, Passive Prospecting. It's also a hard copy, but if you want a digital copy, you can go to book.passiveprospecting.com. And also from there, we have some other offers. We'll be running a 2-day event in January, so I'm sure that will come up. We have some free downloads. You can do that. So otherwise, that's a good place to get started. Just go to book.passiveprospecting.com.
book.passiveprospecting.com. We will see you there. And as we're wrapping up our conversation, we want to make sure that we don't end with a whimper, right? We don't want to just say goodbye. We want to end with a bang instead. And so if I were to ask you about a favorite quote or lesson that could apply today and be really helpful today, what comes to mind for you, quote or lesson?
I was just thinking earlier, based on our discussion, I have a little saying I like to say, which is I'm most comfortable when I'm uncomfortable, and I'm uncomfortable whenever I'm comfortable. So going back to your situation, if you're comfortable right now, that may be a sign that you need to stir things up. You need to change something. You need to add or maybe delete something. And so think about that. And whenever you're uncomfortable, just realize you're in a position of growth at that time. So stick with it, work through that, and you'll get to the other side. And that's probably when you'll become comfortable again. And then it's time to stir the pot again, right? And so you just kind of stay on this cycle. And I think that's what keeps it interesting.
I agree. It's rising above the caveman programming, right? Caveman programming, I'll stay in the cave, I'll be safe. If I have just barely enough food to get by, if I'm out of the rain, then cool, I can rest. But we're saying that it's the modern day and age, it's the entrepreneur age, where if you're comfortable, it means that you're not scared enough and you're not taking enough risks. And if you're uncomfortable, then that's a sign that you're right there on the right track. And so if you find yourself settling or in that plateau and you want more and you deserve more and your future has more, then you should go right now to book.passiveprospecting.com. Thank you very much, Levi, for showing up and just blowing our minds, dazzling us with all of your life experience and your advice. I really appreciate you.
Thanks, Robert.